Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have an opportunity to work on an Avet reel, a little bit unusual one for the Avet stable of reels. Avet is known for the lower profile narrow channel lever drag reels, and this one is the Avet MXJ 5.8 Star. And I don't want to say it's a throwback, it's not, but it is a star adjustable drag washer rather than a lever drag. And it's meant for certain customers that, well, just enjoy kind of the set it and forget it mode of a star drag versus the in and out play for your lever drags. So we're going to show you how this reel is made. Customer says he's got a clicking in the sound of the spool. Quite honestly, I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing what possibly is a little bit of a wear going on in the bearing. But overall, I'm not hearing a clicking sound, but that's okay. Sometimes it's just attributed to some internal dirt and the like. That's why we're going to get underneath this. We'll show you how to take this reel apart, piece by piece, service it, and hopefully eliminate that little clicking that he hears. Well, if you like these types of videos, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. I work on all kinds of fishing reels, and maybe there's one in there that you would like to see a little bit more of. Learn a little bit more about, and possibly there's one in my library. I have a huge library, but maybe there's one in the library that you actually own, and this will teach you how to do it yourself. That's the whole idea behind this channel, to show you the service of the reel and enable you to do it yourself if you so choose. Well, we're starting by taking off the exterior pieces. I took off the retainer clip, the nut cap, and now the handle. This is a good place to tell you to take pictures. There's a washer on the handle here. There's also a little tension washer on the back end here. And well, if you take pictures, you'll notice those things, or at least you'll have a reference point when it comes to putting it back together again if you get stuck. You know, there's a couple of little things here that aren't necessarily obvious. And if you just kind of stray your thoughts for a moment there, get a little lost in them, maybe you don't pay attention to find out, well, that's where that washer went or whatever. So we have a click ratchet on the top, two tension washers below. This always kind of makes me wonder why we get grease on these things. You don't need grease here. These are metal shim spring washers. It's not a moving part, but sometimes grease is put on there. I understand from the fellow that the last people to service this was the Avet reel service platform, and while he wasn't happy with it, thought I might be able to do a little bit better. He said it's had this clicking sound for a while now, and I'm quite curious because quite honestly there isn't anything in there that should really be a click. These 5 screws are Torx screws. These are removed with that Torx bit. You can do it 2 ways. You might have the bit. This happens to be on a stubby driver. Or you might have the set of Torx screwdrivers. I have them. You don't need them, but you do need a Torx 10 bit to remove these screws. A lot of times folks run out and they over-equip, and well, when they find out they're not using tools that they've invested a lot of money in, my recommendation on those, just buy them when you need them. Don't buy them because you think you might need them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws are out. This side plate should just pull out now. And here's an observation. If this was last serviced by Avet, I'm curious as to why we've got such an overload here in the grease on parts, again, that are not moving. We've got a case that's all greased up here, and it just makes me wonder. Nothing's going to touch that case, and well, enough said. I'm going to remove these 2 springs right away. These are yoke springs. And when I remove my pieces and parts, I like to put them into a parts tray. That's where these have been going as I've been taking them off. This one is a fast food container. It's the container du jour, but I've been using that one for a while now. When that one gets all gunked up or breaks or something, I'll go find something else to put them in, but I do like to keep all my parts centralized for the reinstall. I'm also a chaos kind of guy with the way I take the pieces and parts off. I sort of know the reels, so they all just go in one general place. I recommend that you have a system for your parts that you're going to remove. There's a lot of good systems out there. Some like to kind of take them out and lay them on a towel as they come off the disassembly. Some folks like to put them in egg containers, without the eggs, of course. I just kind of use the corners of that fast food tray there to store the sub-assemblies, but I don't get too intricate beyond that. Now to me, that's what that reel inside should look like. I don't know why we had all that grease in there, but we did. And maybe Avet's got a reason for it. And well, it's no harm, no foul. It's just a waste of grease. And again, if they're concerned about an aluminum case rusting from the inside, then I think they maybe know something more than we do. Now, I'm going to just lay it off to the side. That doesn't need to go back into my parts tray. It's big enough, I won't lose that. We should just be able to remove the main gear now. Underneath the main gear, you do have a washer. And then we have this little assembly here. You can choose to take it out or not take it out. That's up to you. It's just the click ratchet for the backup anti-reverse dog. As long as it's clean, this one's clean, you don't need to do anything there. Probably find you get yourself more in trouble if you do that, taking it off. So I leave it. Underneath here you have an anti-reverse dog. You can see the beak. There is a spring here that's running off of a eccentric underneath that'll pull that in. But again, no need to do that unless you want to do that or unless it's broken. I'm going to pull the yoke and the pinion gear out. Going to remove the jack. And that leaves us with this. Now there's a washer. Again, remember what I said about the pictures and actually kind of knowing what's going on here. There are 4 clear washers, one on each of these posts. If for some reason you find a small washer on your table that you don't know where it came from, chances are that's where it is. Those washers help to guide the anti-reverse function. Again, got a lot of grease over on the sides and places where it's just not useful. I'm going to use a cotton swab here to mop this up. A paper towel to dry off the non-essential pieces. And well, this is relatively straightforward reel of service. There's a couple of little hiccups in this reel. For example, that anti-reverse clutch is free-floating. It's not sealed, so if you remove that anti-reverse clutch, understand that the needle bearings may come out. How do I know that? That's what an experience taught me. Okay, clean up your pinion gear. Check all the teeth for the orientation. These are all good. And clean off the old grease from the yoke. And then use a fishing reel grease to reinstall. So in this case, I'm using Penn Precision Reel Grease. I really don't have a preference for which reel grease you use, but I do have a preference that you use fishing reel greases. One of the most frequently asked questions, can I use 3-in-1 oil? Can I use gun oil? Can I use household grease, whatever that may be? And I kind of ask them the question kind of in reverse. If this was your car, would you be using gun oil in the engine or things like that? Fishing reel greases and oils just aren't that expensive. You can get a 2-in-1 pack. And it has the grease and the oil. I think it costs like $11 online. If you're going to spend the time to do the reel, I'm going to recommend that you use the fishing reels, oils, and greases. If you're going to do it yourself, you're going to save a service fee. So just consider yourself in a better position. All right, we've just greased the back of this jack. This is going to move in and down. It's going to pull the pinion gear in and out. When I go to set this jack, I do like to put it in the up position. That's because on this side we have the eccentric. That's what's going to operate the free spool. You'll notice that there is a stud on the eccentric right here. That stud needs to intersect with the slot in the jack. And if I put them both in the up position, I got a good chance of doing just that. Slot on the pinion gear faces inward and is intersecting with your slot on the spool. And what I like to do here is I like to hold the spool and mesh in the pinion gear with the shoulder on the spool. Once you do that, we can come over and service the main gear. These are Carbon-Tex washers. You have the opportunity to grease them or not grease them. I like a Penn HT100 kind of a washer. And what I'm going to do on this is I'm going to choose to lubricate them. These have a cross hatching on them. I'm going to use a dry grease. You don't have to use a dry grease. If you like, you can use that Penn grease. I'm going to use my glove as a tool. And then I'm going to wipe off the excess. You need to see the cross hatches on this. Anything more than that, and it's just going to get squeezed off. You're going to notice that this has the diameter of that inner spacer there. And that's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to put it onto the back of the gear rather than trying to put it over the click ring for the anti-reverse. I'm just going to remove those. I'm going to clean up the inside of the main. This is where all the excess grease gets squeezed out. That's why you don't put more than what you can see on there. That's done. Check the teeth. They're all clean. If they weren't clean, get a soft bristle brush and pull through. These are clean. I'm going to grease the main gear, and then I'm going to install that before I go and install the refresh drag washers in the assembly. This makes it easier to do. And you don't have to get grease on every tooth in the gear. In fact, the one gear is smaller than the other will help spread it around. Drag washer in the back, slip that over the post, and mesh that with the pinion gear like that. We've got two more drag washers here. The first one is the round one. You should remember that from the way you took it off. That would probably have been a good place to take a picture. Again, just smooth it out. And if you feel like you have too much in there and you can't see the crosshatch, then by all means go ahead and put that crosshatch in. Second one is the round metal without the indentations. What are the indentations? Those are the two sides here on the top one that are going to accept the inner spacer for the anti-reverse clutch. That's cleaned. We'll do it one more time with the last of the drag washers, and this one's got all those little points sticking out of it. They merge into the case, and that acts as an eared washer to hold the main gear when you're working on your drag assembly. We've cleaned this off. That goes on top. Then we want to clean off the spacer that is your inner clutch piece. Make sure you get the two sides of the spacer into the slots in the case so that it is flush against there. This is always the more fun part to me of this reel, because you're going to install that anti-reverse. You're going to have to mesh some things here. Now that's in the case. We have a burring in this side of the case. That's a sealed burring. You do not need to do any service with that. Line this all up. Bring this across and down. And then you may or may not have the free spool tag lined up with the slot in the hole. Give it a spin. I'll put it in free spool. Give it a spin. Put put it in gear, it stops. This is successfully or installed. If you don't have that, just take the case off again, play around with it. Again, I like to set this slot on the jack up top so that when I put the eccentric up top, those two fall in place and mesh. It's much trickier to try and enter it low. Alright, I'm just kind of alternating where I put these screws, sort of a triangular pattern. I don't want to put the screws on one side and then the other. Kind of circular. That may result in some tension or torsion in the case. If you alternate the positions of these, you'll be in much better condition. Well, if you have any questions on this reel, maybe you're thinking about buying one, maybe you're thinking about how it's used, maybe you're working on it and didn't pay attention on some part, you need an assist, just leave those in the comment section and we'll try to answer those for you. Alright, I mentioned that this is just a bearing, it's sealed, you don't need to do anything. One of the reasons I just removed that there is I wanted to show you there is a plastic washer in the case here. And that is something that you want to pay attention to. Next up, we're going to put that bearing back in. We're going to take our ungreased tension washers. These are cupped, so it's concave, convex. I never get them right. One goes up. I put the other one down. You can put them in a number of different ways. And then you have this serrated click ratchet here, which is going to be a noisemaker when you are tightening your star adjuster. You'll see on this one here that there is a little ball bearing, spring driven there. That's what will make the noise. You got to put this on, make sure that it goes on square. And then as you tighten down, eventually you're going to hear the bearing. I hold the spool on this side. You can hear that click now. And you can give it a spin at this point, make sure that it's working. It's pretty quiet right now. So before I was hearing a lot of spool noise, that may just be that there was some lack of grease in some areas. There's a washer that goes on next. Then the handle goes on, and there's a washer inside the handle. This one I didn't take out, but if it fell out, just know that's where it belongs. I'm going to tighten the top nut by hand as much as I can. I'll take the 12mm wrench. Generally speaking, if you have the points pointing to the holes for the retention clip, it will line up. See how we did? And I think one of the things that's funny about this, if you reverse the clip, there is a different offset there. Yep, we got them. All right. Two small screws go here. I'm using a micro screwdriver for that. It's a Phillips head screw. Just be careful. These things tend to bounce. Well, we're not done with the service. We want to go over the other side and show you that, particularly because he's telling me he's hearing a clicking from time to time. I just want to see if there might be something trapped in the side plate, like broken line or something that might be causing it. There's really nothing going on the other side. There's a bearing in the case, a click mechanism, and not much more. Okay, those are tight. Let's come over to the other side. We'll do the same thing. I'm going to use this to break the nuts. The screwdriver is easier on my hands, but sometimes they're over tightened, and well, it's easier to use that palm grip than it is to use the screwdriver. Torx driver. So this is how you service the spool side. You notice we couldn't take the spool out of the assembly because we have a solid plate over on that side. This tells you that it's been used in salt water. There's a lot of salt on those screws. I'm going to use a little bit of penetrating oil on my table. It does two things. It helps keep the board clean, and it helps dissolve that salt. Let's see if we can't remove the side plate now. Nope, missed one. That's why it's so hard. There's a sixth one here. The other side only has the 5. This is an example where there's one that's pretty tight. That's why I can't get it off. And I'll put that in that same little puddle over there. Side comes off. Bearing. And we can take the spool out just to show you. You want to make sure that the spool surfaces are clean. You couldn't get there from the other side. This one's got a bearing that can be oiled. You can test that bearing. So I was hearing a little noise before. Maybe that bearing, it's got a little bit of sand over here that it's grabbing. So I'm going to clean that side case. Put a little squirt of oil onto the click mechanism. We'll grab the spool right now. A little bit of grease, not a lot, onto where it's going to ride through those bearings. And you need to wrap the line internally so that it doesn't trap as it goes to get reinstalled. And place the one side of the spool in. Make sure that the line is inside. Bearing goes back in the cap. I'm going to oil that bearing up. And then we can take our reel and reset that. And generally, again, we'll do the same thing here that we did with the other one. We're going to alternate one up top, one on the bottom, then go side to side, just to keep the tension equal. Once you do that, you can kind of release your thumb pressure that was acting as a clamp. And while I'm doing this, I want to thank our first responders and essential personnel, fire, police, rescue, EMTs, everybody that day in and day out helps keep us safe. We appreciate everything you do. Well, we're almost ready for that test. We'll see if we got a clicking noise. I'm not sure what Teddy was referring to. I didn't really see anything. It would say clicking other than, or maybe this knot here. So Teddy, I'm going to cut that off. That might be just that slapping. I kind of doubt that was it, but you never know. All right, so what did we do? We took the reel off gear side first. We showed you the internal makings of this reel. It's a high speed reel. It's 5.8. You know that because it says it in its name, MJX 5.8 star, the star being the star adjuster. Took it off. We cleaned it all up on the inside. So some greases in places that you don't need to put grease. Won't hurt anything, but well, it's not going to help anything either. We showed you how to clean up the interior of that reel, how to reinstall it after we've taken every piece apart. Showed you the anti-reverse clutch, how to make sure that that is installed properly. We installed the star drags, the drag washers, after we cleaned and greased all of those. Just tightening that down now. And then we went over to the other side, because there's a bearing in there that you're going to want to take care of. We're in free spool now. Let's give it a spin. Oh yeah, I quieted that bearing down quite a bit. There are folks that do like to change over on these reels. They like to install ceramic bearings. Ceramic bearings won't rust, but they'll make the same amount of noise. So my recommendation is if you do want to kind of quiet that reel a little bit more, I don't think it's at that point where you need that bearing, but if you do want to quiet that down, go ahead and replace it with the original bearings. If you are in a harsh environment and your bearings are failing and you're noticing that they are getting pitted or rusted or what have you, then switch over to the ceramic bearings. Don't, my opinion, don't just change ceramic bearings for the sake of changing ceramic bearings. Do it because there's a cause and a need. Otherwise, I think you're just wasting your money. That's on me. All right, Free spool is nice. Let's put it into gear. Let's turn it. Well, I'm not hearing any click, 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 whatever that might have been. I didn't see any loose pieces or parts in there that may have contributed to a clicking sound. The noise I am hearing is associated with the burring. And again, if there was a need or a want to go do that, well, I guess we could do that. I'm going to tighten down that spool adjuster just a little bit. All right, that's it. That is how you service the Avet MXJ 5.8 star fishing reel. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please like it. Again, if you'd like to see more of these, please subscribe. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.